right? We'll be like, what's that show that goes on and on and on and on and on?
Ocean's 11. Oh, the show, The Simpsons.
The Office.
Hello, my name
The
is
Office.
Yvonne.
The Office.
My name is Yvonne. I'm with JK Lifestyles with Yvonne. Today, I have a group with me. I'm so glad they came. And as you could tell, I mean, this group loves to talk. I'm trying to introduce, and they're talking like Mr. J did before. So I'm happy that they are here and they feel comfortable enough to be themselves. So today, I have Stuart Wood. He's a specialist when it comes to talking about narcissism. I have Mr. J. Mr. J is, I wrote it down so I don't forget it.
Just put it in capital letters. Mr. J is amazing.
Oh,
He
we
is,
all
he
are.
is.
Exclamation point.
He's a professional relationship coach. He's a certified betrayal trauma practitioner. He has a bachelor's in sociology. So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Okay. I have Teresa LaRue. She's a domestic violence survivor. She's the author of a book, My Rock, My Hard Place, and she's coming on to tell about her journey and how she made it through. I also have Koya Bakare. I'm so
Who's
sorry.
also amazing.
Yeah,
I'll just fill in the dead space for you.
thank you. Thank you. She is she's an educator. She's a national and state pageant queen. She's a survivor of sexual abuse, bulimia. She's also, you've done some modeling too, because you've been on the pages of Vogue and Essex
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
and in style magazines. So thank you all for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Wood, I want you to tell me, what is narcissism? Who is a narcissist?
Narcissism is a collection of personal traits that make people totally selfish. Uh, Basically means they have no empathy, so they're only ever looking out for themselves, and they will use anybody and everybody to get what they want, however they can, regardless of the cost. So narcissists maybe grew up in through traumatic experiences. Equally, the term trauma there may include people who've been brought up with absolutely no boundaries whatsoever, and so have been their own judge and jury since the cradle. Um, and as such, they are incredibly entitled and expect everybody to do what they want them to do. But generally, narcissism per se is a collection of 9 traits that are recognized. For a formal diagnosis known as narcissistic personality disorder, you need at least 5 out of the 9 traits to qualify. The big issue with narcissists is that their perception, or the way that they protect themselves, is that they claim to be perfect. That's their mask, and therefore, why should they change? So, trying to get a narcissist to a professional, such as a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist, for some sort of diagnosis is very difficult. Everybody else should go except the narcissist, and as a result, um, official figures are about 1 to 2% in the population, but they can be as high as 5, 8% in the population. And in certain circumstances, such as military populations, early phases of medical school, they may be as high as 20% of that population. So basically, narcissists are toxic people who are prepared to go the whole way And in some cases, that does include driving people to suicide, or even at the point of losing their own temper, committing murder. So it's actually a spectrum, but they're not just people who are a bit inconvenient or a bit off today because they're being rude. They have this approach to everybody that they meet.
How would you know that somebody's a narcissist? I mean, when you first meet someone, they may be charming. They may.
Yeah, it's very difficult because they have this technique, what they call mirroring. So in the beginning, they will spend a lot of time doing their reconnaissance. They'll talk to you, they'll feign all kinds of interest. They'll be asking you questions about yourself. What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And they log this information and basically reflect back to you what you're looking for. So they then become that perfect individual. We're a match made in heaven. We're the perfect individual. I'm the perfect individual for you, etc. And it's very easy when you're not looking out for an abuser, which kind of normal people aren't. It's very easy to miss it. But a telltale sign with narcissists and a major red flag is that they move quickly. So from certainly in something like a emotional relationship or a romantic relationship, they will move from first meeting to some kind of heavy commitment, maybe in the space of a couple of weeks or less. I've met one lady who moved from starting a relationship to being married in 3 months. They push hard, they drive hard, because what they don't want you to do is to see how they're manipulating you into a psychological state that you can no longer resist them. They'll kind of spend lots of time, pay lots of money, lots of gifts, lots of spoiling in the initial phase to get you on board, and also so that you feel indebted. And then once you're there, that's when the mask begins to fall away, and that's when they start to abuse you. So even people who are so-called experts in the field, people like Dr. Ramani, who works out of Los Angeles, well-known expert on narcissism, she still gets taken in and still gets fooled by narcissists. So it's not an easy find. You just have to look for 1 or 2 red flags, particularly speed of movement, and if everything feels too good to be true, it probably is.
Does anyone here think that they've been involved with a narcissist?
Absolutely. No, I have some. Where were you, Stuart, a few years ago? Where were you when I needed you? Yeah, and as you're saying that, I'm having just different. I'm taken back to, oh, I missed that, or I missed this, and what I thought it was someone who was actually just really offering me care, but now I identify it was manipulation. And sometimes I can lean into the spirit of I want to assist or help, because the person, the way that he showed up was as if he needed me. But I realized in hindsight, once we started connecting more, I was like, oh, you were actually seeking to harm me and to manipulate. Then the things switched where I wasn't enough, or I couldn't do this, and things were my fault. And I had enough strength to leave. But at that point, I still was emotionally riddled with pain, because now I had allowed this person into my space. But definitely was manipulation, but I didn't know the signs at all. But I do have a question. Have you identified that a narcissist or manipulator starts at a certain age? It's something that's environmental. It's something that someone has developed. How would one, does it start at any point, or is it diagnosed at any point?
It starts in childhood. A common background really is children who are brought up either with narcissistic parents or a narcissistic parent, or they're brought up in an environment where everybody's too busy to notice them. And so what they quickly learn is that in order to be acceptable, you have to achieve, or you have to do something, or you have to excel. And so the child becomes focused on earning love as something as though it's a reward they have to seek, rather than, love being something that as a child they are entitled to unconditionally. And so it tends to be sort of early teenage years when the mind is beginning to switch to, well, this is the way, this is a good way to be, this is how I can get my own way. And I can protect people from seeing who I am inside, because, although they put on this brash, confident front, very often inside they're grossly insecure. They have very, very low self-esteem, and very low sense of self-worth. And so what they do is they then create this, what we call a mask, or a front, which shows or shows the exact opposite of who they really are. And so from early teens onwards, they can begin to move that way. But it tends to be when people first notice the traits when they're getting into that age of, personal relationships. So that might start in early teens, but it tends to be mid-teens, later teens, when people are looking for more serious relationships, that they begin to fall foul of the narcissist's tricks. Because at a younger age, most people can go home to parents or go home and get away from the space, whereas as you get older, very often people kind of inhabit the same space a lot longer and a lot more intensely, and that's when it begins to have, the really big impacts, and when people struggle. But generally, people who've grown up in an abusive household with narcissistic parents, grown up in a household where there's been no unconditional love, it's been about earning respect, it's about being invisible because parents are too busy doing the social life and doing the work, that the children are pretty much end up as trophies, and that trophy child has no connection, and so then seeks to make up, I guess, for what they're lacking. And that will, and if that comes to manipulating other people and other children and parents and teachers, then they'll kind of go into that. But so there may be a genetic thing. There's evidence that if you've been in a narcissistic family, then it can go back several generations. Whether that's a true link in the real sense of genetics, or whether it's just more the environment that you grow up in, it could be elements of both, but upbringing is a big one.
It's interesting, Stuart, that you referenced masks, because I write about my mask that I wore as a victim. I was a personal trainer. I had to be like, yes, you got this. You're amazing. You're great. So I had a mask. I felt like I was part of the Beatles. Eleanor Rigby had a mask by the door, and I would put it on when I would go out in public. So unless people were very astute or saw the bruises or the black eyes or whatever, everybody thought, oh, Teresa's happy. Everything's wonderful. But my abuser, when he was out, I had so many people, because we were both competitive bodybuilders at the time. I had so many women specifically saying, oh my God, you got it all. He's got a body. He's wonderful. He's nice. And honestly, I remember very distinctly telling somebody once, I said, do you want him? You can have him. And she backed up. She's like, oh my God, because I know it. I spoke those words with such venom, because I was done, because that's all they saw. They didn't see, when he came in the door and put his mask down, what he turned into. He would either be a raging monster, or he would be sitting in the corner crying because of his low self-esteem, because it absolutely no confidence at all. And which was crazy, because again, competitive bodybuilder. So I'm glad that you referenced that, because it's very true. So true.
Yeah. And I think with the thing to understand about narcissists is that their the image of themselves depends on what they can get from outside. So they call it external validation. A healthy person accepts their worth as a human being internally. That's their starting point. But a lot of these people, the narcissist starts from a total lack inside. So they're grossly insecure. And therefore, what they do is they look for anything that will give them attention. That's good or bad. They look for image, status, power, money, position, superficial things, really, beauty, and it's only very often looking back at someone when you know how they act that you can say, oh yeah, well all these components came together in this one person, but they are masters of deceit. And so, as you rightly say, if you talk to your friends about them, they'll often, there's this term gaslighting, which is again a common word, but gaslighting is the whole psychological manipulation of the person to get them pliable enough for you to be able to manipulate them. So, they doubt their own sense of reality. But they're so good at gaslighting other people that when you go to them and say, oh, I think I'm in an abusive relationship, the first thing you often hear back is, are you sure? I've never seen that.
Well,
I think you've
and
got
that's
right.
why I tell, I'm
Takes two,
sorry.
it takes two to tango. And so
Mhm.
what happens is the people you seek help from actually re-gaslight you and help make you doubt your own
Mhm.
reality again. So they are, a lot of people think of a narcissist as being a bit up themselves, so to say. But actually, they're far more sinister, they're far more toxic, and they are dangerous.
It's interesting that you say that because he was so good at what he was doing and how he was doing it. And, you, yeah, it's crazy. It's truly crazy how fast they can get into your head, how fast they can grab your heart. They lasso your heart and they wrap it up in black paper, and there's nothing that you can do. And when I go to workshops, I have people that have contacted me and they say, I think my sister, I think my brother, I think my mother, whatever. And the first thing I tell them is, do not ask them, are you sure? What you
Yeah.
need to say is, how can I help? What do you need? And believe them. Always believe them. I distinctly remember being in the back of an ambulance one of many times, and no one would make eye contact with me. No one would talk to me. First responders at that time were horrible. And here in Sacramento, I work with the Sacramento Family Justice Center, and we actually work with responders to make them realize that I'm a person and you need to treat me with the same respect that you would anyone else and care. Not that they're not, they look through you,
Mm.
and sometimes they don't believe you.
Yes, and I think the issue is the way narcissists work is they use this thing where they take the real offender, if you like, the real abuser, and they reverse it and they become the victim. So
Mhm.
if you're in the back of an ambulance having been beaten by someone, you've asked for it.
Absolutely.
That's the starting
Absolutely.
point, and that's
I
that's
actually
how
had
insidious
somebody,
they
yeah,
are.
I actually had somebody once, Stuart, ask me, what did you do? And I was
Mm.
like, what? And they said, what did you do to deserve that? Are, are you flipping kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? No one deserves what I went through. No
No.
one.
Mr.
And, go ahead.
Mr. Okay, Mr. J, you counsel people, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you come in there? You had a couple that come in and maybe you could recognize that they're a narcissist. How many of those relationships endure in a positive way? How many of them stay together or how many of them leave?
To answer your question,
Mm.
uh, if somebody is, and I know uh, we're talking about certifiable narcissist because obviously a lot of people like to throw that term around nowadays. We're talking about the actual certifiable, the 5+ traits that you need. I'm going to be honest with you, very few will be able to have a successful relationship. I'm going to tell you something. I have a very unique relationship with the narcissist because, on one hand, I understand they're blood sucking, venomous vampires who will leave you questioning everything about you. And they're a big mind F. While you are with a narcissist and for long after, you have a big mind F. They F your mind up. However, the coaching side of me um, has compassion, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of booze right now because they're empty on the inside and their self worth is very little. And me, as an intrapersonal coach, that breaks my heart because I'm all about the relationship you have with yourself. And these people are so completely disconnected with themselves, and they have little to zero self worth, as you know, Stuart was saying. Um, but so unfortunately, if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, which by the way, I always say narcissists don't look for dates; they look for victims because you are their supply chain. Which is why they don't want you to leave because then you're breaking their supply. The best thing to do is really separate and do as much little contact as possible. Now, some people can't break it off completely because now you're co-parenting, which is a nightmare. My heart bleeds for the people that have to co-parent with a narcissist. But to answer your question, very, very few. And if somebody has to stay with a narcissist for whatever reason, then my agenda is to ensure they have a tremendous amount of boundaries and they enforce those boundaries to the best of their ability without setting up their vampire, because vampires like to suck your blood, and that is a narcissist. They will suck every ounce of blood out of you and then say, well, you know, you were the one that did something of why I had to suck your blood. I mean, it's a big mind F.
So love is not enough.
Oh, no, 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 no. Well, first of all, you have to have self-love, and that's what they lack. So no, absolutely not.
If may I ask a question? I'm just so curious. What does it look like when a narcissist realizes he, she, or they are a narcissist? What is that? Well, so I stop there. Like, do they already know? I'm thinking in some cases maybe they do, they maybe don't know. But what when it's revealed and now you're defined and there this aha moment, what is that outcome? How and I guess it can be unique per person, but what has been your experience when the person's like, oh my gosh, I am a narcissist.
And Jay's a great person to answer that. But from what I've experienced and sort of from research, first of all, narcissists can't self-reflect. So they will never look at themselves and say, what am I doing wrong? How can I improve? That's outside their sphere of psychological ability. So the chance of a narcissist looking at themselves and saying, I'm I'm a narcissist is very, very small. The people who are most likely to look at themselves and think they're narcissistic are the victims, because the narcissist will have convinced them that they're the problem in the relationship, they're the problem in the marriage, they are the reason why everything's going south. So narcissists rarely come out with, oh, I think I am narcissistic. The other thing is, if they do accept and they recognize some narcissism, some will approach for counseling, but every trait of a narcissist is against or anti what counseling needs. So the whole sense of self-reflection, ability to accept mistakes, ability to change what you do, ability to think and to act in a way that doesn't take advantage of other people, everything you need to do to change, the narcissist will combat. So some will get into therapy and last a short period of time and drop out. Others will make certain changes and continue working at those, but it's a very small part of their life. Most won't go near a therapist because I'm not the problem. I'm the victim here. It's you nasty person in front of me who's dared to strike up this relationship with allow me to abuse you for 25 years, to suck your blood. You're the real perpetrator in this. I'm simply the victim. Look how much I've tried, and all you can do is complain about me. That tends to be more, in my experience, that's the sort of mindset of how a narcissist would approach the whole area of therapy. I don't know whether Jay's got other any other comments
No,
on that.
Stuart, I think you just described perfectly Darvo. And for anybody listening that maybe doesn't understand what that is, Darvo is a word for deny, attack, and reverse the victim order. So that's why you walk away from the narcissist with a big mind effery, because you're always walking away questioning yourself, questioning, did I do something to set this person off? Did I do, am I, it's a big mind F. So for anybody listening, actually, Stuart, what you just said, DARVO, that's the acronym for they love to deny, then they'll attack you, and then RVO, they will reverse the victim order. DARVO.
What does it take for a narcissist to move on to the next person?
When you cut your supply off and they can't get it anymore. once you turn completely white as a sheet because you have no more blood in you, then they go on to the next person.
What happens?
I think the other thing is narcissists run many people in parallel. It's not unusual for a narcissist within a marriage or a committed romantic relationship to have 2 or 3 side pieces that they will use either for supply when they can't get it from their partner, or they'll bring into discussions to actually manipulate their real partner into doing what this partner doesn't want to do, because the third person is then a threat. Oh, if you don't do that, of course, I've got Susie and she's a much better lover than you are. They'll go that far. They have no shame in admitting what they do. For them, they can't do anything for themselves. They can't do anything wrong. And so all they're doing is, by having an affair, is they're sort of opening up the opportunities, because obviously my current relationship isn't good enough, isn't giving me what I want, abusing me, all these things. And they use that almost to convince themselves to have these things on the side, that if you let them down, they'll slip off to that new relationship. And then when that relationship goes south, they come back to you and they are totally repentant. You'll get the full crocodile tears. You'll get the promises of, oh, I'll change. I promise, I've been so horrible to you. And the second you let them, even to get a finger in the crack of a door, they will flip the door open. They will come back in full face on you, and they will double down and make your life double hell. So, they like every option, and the one thing they won't do is accept accountability for what they're doing, or responsibility that actually, what you're doing is unnatural and is wrong. For them, it's simply the next step. And if you happen to get trodden and walked over on the way, so be it. That's you actually don't matter in the big scheme of things. It's what I, as the narcissist, want.
What happens if, say, the narcissist doesn't go away? Say the person that they're involved with says, I've had enough, I'm gone. How do they react then?
Usually that can be the lid that pulls, that can be the finger that pulls the pin from the grenade, to be honest. If usually, from my understanding and from people I've spoken to, if a victim wants to leave their abuser, they plan it secretly, they have everything worked out, and they go. And they leave it, because as soon as they open up to if you do that again, I'm leaving, the narcissist will then either create you into being the aggressor, or, because you've slighted them and you've undermined their ego, that they have such a shallow emotional threshold between zero response and total rage, they will just flip off into one. And that's when, the number of people murdered each year through domestic abuse is scary. And that a lot of that is when the victim or the abused party decides to stand up for themselves, decides to let the other party know that they're leaving. And that is, that's when the rubber hits the road with regards to the violence and the abuse and everything else. I don't know whether other people have experienced that, but certainly, as I understand it, if you're going to leave, make your plans and do it quietly, and also make sure that you've got the support of people you can trust, and if necessary, law enforcement or whatever, to protect you once you've gone. Because once you've offended, a narcissist, there's none so bad, none so vexed as a narcissist scorned, and their scorning will lead to, can lead to murder.
Yeah. Well, we're getting ready to end. I'm so happy that you joined. I almost feel like crying. Where's the tissue? Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. Dr. Stewart Wood, Mr. J, Miss Koya, Miss Teresa. We have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Sure.
Round 3, is it, or round 4? I don't know. Alger, just hook me on the end of whatever round it is if you want me to talk a lot, and that would be fine.
That's fine. I appreciate everybody's contribution because I learn a lot myself. But we're getting ready to cut off, so till next time. Thank you. Goodbye,
All right.
everybody.
Take care of yourself. Bye.